Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I will not be joined by my co-host for this episode that is titled The Bear Hunt. We may have a very special guest here showing up here momentarily, if possible. We have to see about that coming down the pipeline. But we are going to be talking about this matchup going against the Bears. And I know a lot of people will bring up the Hail Mary and the theatrics that came about in that win and how amazing it was, because I remember what I was doing last year, getting yelled at by my wife for that victory just because of how much I was yelling after that game. But like Dan Quinn, Jay and Daniels others have said repeatedly, that's last year. It has nothing to do with this game. And he's honestly right about that. And all of them are. That's the way that you have to go about it and look at it, because it is true. This is an entirely different team. They have a new head coach. And us as Washington fans, we kind of already know what it's like to have a new head coach and to have things turn the tide pretty quickly. So there's no reason to go into this game thinking it's going to be similar whatsoever. But we're going to talk about this matchup. We're going to answer some fan questions. And if there's anybody watching out there that has questions, that wants to make a comment about this game, what you think the differences could be, what do you think the aspects, who needs to dominate, who's going to have a huge game, and what's a big concern for you, and who could that possibly be, and what areas of the team could that be on? I would love to hear your thoughts if you could chime in a little bit. Now, I did want to get into some fan questions that were submitted. This first one was by the Colonel. He says, who is the second best quarterback in the NFC East? I think it's very easy to say that it's Dak Prescott. He's playing very good football. I knew coming into this season that the Cowboys were not going to be like they were last year, Colonel. So it's very easy to say that it is Dak Prescott. I know everyone's piling on the Eagles right now for their play last night, and very well deserved. Said it many weeks ago. I've said it for a while, that if you force the Eagles to kick field goals, they'll fall apart. And I know that I saw a lot of people on Twitter last night just having a huge issue with 4 tush pushes being called in a row, and then the false starts coming off of it, and nothing gets called. So it is what it is. It's a legal football play for the time being, of course. But we have to imagine the reason why gambling was allowed into the NFL and to be partnered with the NFL was that the NFL was labeled as entertainment, right? It's labeled as entertainment. At what point is the NFL going to say that tush push is not entertainment? It is not generating that whatsoever. It is honestly, it's a bore on everybody. And I know that it pads the stats of the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, but if you're doing something illegal on the play every time, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to make a decision to do so. But Jackson Dart looked great last night, and very well should. But I do know that I've said this for weeks as well, that the Eagles' secondary is Swiss cheese, and you do have to take that into consideration. Not only were they already out with Slay, but even Quinyon Mitchell. But even when they had Quinyon Mitchell in the game, like the first game of the season, they got lit up, man. And it's a legit thing. And so I'm not putting it past the Giants. They're a good team. We knew that going into week 1 against them. But I will say that I don't think the Eagles are as good as advertised, so to speak. And look, they lost 2 straight. I'm sure they're going to right the ship, of course, because that's what happens with Philly. Good things happen to them for some reason, even though they're not always the best people. The next question by the Colonel was, are we witnessing the exact reason why AP was reluctant to give Terry a voluminous contract? No. So I do want to get in this because I have seen it on Twitter, man. People piling on my boy. The reason why Terry held out was for this reason. He's 30 years old. If he hasn't had injury concerns his entire career, NFL career, maybe a slight couple things here and there, But coming into the season with not much money, guaranteed money on his contract left, there was no reason for him to step on the field and possibly be getting injured for it. So I could totally understand from his perspective why he did hold out. But I point blame at both sides to say that shouldn't have taken as long as it did. You should have been on the same page a while ago. I don't know where to point blame for why they weren't on the same page, but there should be constant communication. You should know exactly what they want, and you should be able to have the communication to iron it out. That's my personal opinion. I'm not trying to hash it out again, of course, but I'm not putting this on Terry. Injuries happen. This is the NFL. It's kind of insane that he hasn't been injured already. A crazy amount with how many games he's played and how consistent that he has been. So I know some people have said that, oh, he got paid, so he's chilling now. That's not the case whatsoever, man. He is legitimately dealing with something, and not sure what it exactly is. But the fan base constantly said he lacks separation from getting away from defenders, and that's why one of the reasons why the passing attack isn't so potent. Doesn't step up to big game situations, right? But then what he gets injured on is that huge pass in the game, and you could kind of see that he's trying to make things right. He's trying to get those big yards, that touchdown to end it, because apparently you're not an elite wide receiver if you don't score long touchdowns. And that's what inevitably is what injured him. And so it's crazy because I've always believed like you don't kick a man while he's down, right? And that's essentially what is happening with Terry. And obviously this is the NFL. He's a big boy. He's a grown man. He can handle it himself. But I don't think the injury says anything about Terry. But I do think it says a lot about other people who are judging Terry based on the injury. Just from a personal standpoint of kicking somebody when they're down. Typically only cowards will do that. And I'm not going to do that to Terry. He doesn't deserve that. He's a team player. And just because he held out for more money doesn't make him a bad person or worthy of being kicked like that. Personally, from a fan base, it's a guy who stuck through thick and thin with us. And when the biggest season happened with Washington, he showed up time and time again. And obviously this time around he is injured, and I'm sure he's biting at the bit to come back. But I would imagine that they are tight-lipped about the situation because they're protecting either themselves or they're protecting Terry for whatever it is. Because we have to remember that Terry went out and got a second opinion on his injury. So we don't know exactly what the parameters are. We don't know exactly what it is. Everyone can kind of speculate on what those could be. But in my personal opinion, this is about protection and just making sure that he's right. And they've taken their time with injuries, dude. They're not going to just throw somebody out there just because they need them. They want to make sure these guys are ready to go, and they're not going to put them out there and put the player in harm's way. They want to protect the player. And Dan Quinn talked about that a lot when it came to Jaden Daniels and the times that he was out. Obviously, in the short amount of time that he was out in games. But obviously, you could see that when Jaden Daniels came back last week, he looked ready to go, even with the brace on. He looked like typical freaking Jaden, and it's kind of crazy to see. So I don't think this is anything to say that Adam Peters was right. I think this is more so in the sense of Terry McLaurin was right for holding out for his contract. Not much guaranteed money left on his deal. You don't want to go into that season last year on your deal, get injured, not have much guarantee, and then now not only that, you're also hampering your next contract after this season with possibly a new team or the same team. And so from a standpoint of Terry McLaurin's camp, this was the right call. And obviously for good reasons, because you have no idea what's going to happen come down the line. Now, the next question from the Colonel. What are your initial impressions of New York Giants rookie quarterback Jackson Dart's first two starts, especially with last night's win over the Eagles? I have a thing about Ole Miss quarterbacks, not because of just Ole Miss. Obviously, Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. But Lane Kiffin's kind of offense and how it translates to the NFL. And obviously, the NFL itself is kind of mutating into the more high-powered, twitchy, like evident by what Washington was doing last year with Cliff Kingsbury and his offense, but getting the ball out of your hands quick and being able to get out to your playmakers, just to get out of your quarterback's hands. And that kind of goes to Jackson Dart's kind of strengths. But I'll be honest, I was thoroughly impressed with how he was running the pro offense as a rookie, doing a very good job at it. But we do have to put the caveat, the asterisk, onto that game last night, given that big man was Jalen Carter wasn't there. If Jalen Carter's there, it is a different ball game. Everything starts and ends in the trenches, and Jalen Carter is their best football player on that team, and he controls things. He changes things. So as much credit I want to give Jackson Dart, and obviously he deserves that, I don't think that he's running for that touchdown if Jalen Carter's there, to be perfectly honest with you. But he was accurate, was getting the ball out of his hands, and you do have to give him credit because one of the best wide receivers in the league right now, Malik Neighbors, is on IR, comes in and is throwing that rock. A lot of people on Twitter gave me a bunch of crap because I said Cam Scatterbo is a very good running back. And if Washington is looking for that all-around kind of running back, Cam Scatterbo offers that. He catches the football out of the backfield, very solid pass blocker. He runs hard in between the tackles, runs through tackles, but he's a hard-nosed football player, the kind of tough mindset you want to have as an offensive team, as an identity, and that hard-nosed kind of runner. And everyone was telling me that he sucked. I remember one guy on Twitter said, he's not breaking those kind of tackles at the NFL level. I said, well, that's funny because I'm sure that's what people in high school were saying about him. Saying, oh, yeah, you can break those tackles in high school, but you're not going to do that at college. You're not going to do that at the D1 level. Well, what do you know? The dude scored 21 touchdowns. But I think that overall, they had a good game last night. I think the Eagles themselves, they are, I'm not going to say coming back down to earth, but balancing out. And luckily for them, they have a bunch of draft picks. If I'm Howie, I'm holding on to those because judging how this thing flows out for them, they may need to recycle. They may need to replenish and get things going because they need to hit on some of those draft picks, man, to kind of help their team out just a little bit more. But look, the Eagles have shown to come back and be able to pop back whenever we think that they're down. And so they typically rely on the tush push for that. But it is kind of crazy that, like when we went against the Giants, like we ran all over them. We had no problems with running the football on them. And then last night, the Eagles come out and just wanting to throw the ball all over the field. It was kind of crazy. Because there's one avenue you're going to attack New York with. It's in between the tackles. And how the Eagles started that game was running in between the tackles with Saquon Barkley. I mean, the first carry he had was like a 20-yard run. And then they kind of go away from that. And so I think it was good on the Giants for getting it done. Of course, Jackson Dart deserves a lot of credit. He protected the football better in this game, a lot better than Jalen Hurts did. But he's got to be consistent with it. Got to see it more and more. But if you do it on the bright lights on the national stage, typically it's going to stick with people and the whole fan mind. But doing it on a consistent basis is what really earns you respect in this league. And we'll see if that young man is able to do that. Now, this next question that we had submitted before we start breaking down this game, boys. Before we start breaking down this game. This one was submitted on Instagram by our boy James Bonato. Often a sportscaster or pundit will make a remark about a player giving it their all because they are in a contract year. Do you feel we have anyone on the roster who falls in that category? Deron Payne most definitely fits into that category. Debo himself as well. I know Debo. What happened in the offseason was Adam Peters converted his contract to be with guaranteed money because Debo didn't have all that much guaranteed money, which was very similar to what Terry was kind of requesting, right? Because if you could look at Terry's deal, it was basically just to give him more guaranteed money this season. If you really break down Terry's contract, and I'm not smart enough to be able to do that. But so I would say Debo fits in that mold because he is playing for a contract. Deron Payne, of course, is another guy on that kind of level. Unfortunate because you could also loop Will Harris into that, and now he's injured. So it sucks for him that he's going to be out of the loop there. Marshawn Lattimore, I'd probably put into that realm as well. But also, you cannot forget about the big man, Chris Paul, who's having himself a year, man. I know on Twitter, Hall even tweeted this out, James, that they should look into, like, about hypothetically trading Brandon Coleman. I was like, wait, hold up, man. It's way too early for that. It's a long season. And give credit to Chris Paul. But you want to have bricks on that wall. You do not want to take bricks away from that wall. You want your identity to be a stout front that can run over people at any point in frickin' time. You don't want to take away one of those bricks. And honestly, I'm not sure how much Brandon Coleman's really going to garner you in return. So, hold on to Brandon. You have no idea what's going to come down the pipeline. Yeah, maybe we should extend Chris Paul, but keep Brandon Coleman there. That's somebody that they have invested some time into and has shown flashes, and you want to continue to build that young man. So I would say Chris Paul is another one of those guys that in his contract year is definitely giving it his all, without a doubt. Now, before we get into the Discord, I did want to break down this game a little bit, talking about the stats heading into this. So, before we get into the positives, some concerns heading into this game. Chicago coming into this game is 14th in the league in passing yards on offense, throwing on average 225 yards per game. We all know about that high-functioning, high-value target kind of offense that they have with those wide receivers at their disposal. They're using DJ Moore in the backfield, similar to what Debo is kind of used like, but it's also the trick plays because Ben Johnson. We can go back to the NFC Championship game last year, that Jameson Williams end around run, right? That they hit us with, that really just, I think that was a long touchdown that they hit us with. Then the other Jameson Williams one, where Mikey was fortunate enough to go pick that ball away. And so with Ben Johnson, you got to be cognizant of the trick plays that are coming down the pipeline. And that's just another avenue, another wrinkle to put a defense on their heels, in the sense that every time you go up to snap, you have to be cognizant of it. Because as a defense, you want to be able to walk up to the line of scrimmage, identify exactly what's about to happen, and then put your assets in a place to where you're going to nullify where that play is going to happen. With the ability to use trick plays, it kind of makes you more stand backish to say we got to be smart about it. No big chunk plays, and that's one avenue of Ben Johnson's team you definitely have to take into consideration. This defense, Washington's defense, is 23rd in the league, giving up 235 yards per game. And the big plays have been a big concern. And I wanted to say, I'm glad that nobody is here to crap on me a little bit. I have to apologize to Marshawn Lattimore. On the last episode, I made a comment that he was there to recover that fumble because that was his man who got free. And I just want to say, I'm sorry. I was incorrect. I was ignorant because that was not his man. He was strapped up on his dude who happened to be at that place, and he was able to jump over and get on that football. So respect to Marshawn Lattimore. He had a good game. I will give him grace for that Keenan Allen third down pick play they kind of ran, where he ran into Quan Martin. Is that all the way his fault? No, but we got to do better, And I still expect more out of Marshawn. I need to see some turnovers, man, and forcing some turnovers, because that really is the big difference with this defense. Whenever they get turnovers, it is undoubtedly a victory, and so they have to make sure that they have to do a better job of doing so. Now, the other concern that I have going into this, Chicago's defense, this is a crazy stat, and when it comes to Chicago's defense, they're number one in the league in third down conversion percentage as a defense, only allowing first downs on 29% of the plays on third down. That is a crazy stat. Good for them. They're very stout at the third down. But what makes it really insane is that in points per game, they're 28th in the league. giving up 29.3 points per game on defense, which makes you think, if you're forcing that many teams to punt, how are they scoring so many points? And it would beg to question, well, maybe they're giving up big plays. Maybe the reason why that's not happening is because teams are getting down the field on them on first and on second down, and they don't even get to third down. Or a lot of teams are converting on fourth down, getting a lot of those opportunities. I just thought that was a crazy stat. Like, it's a complete polar opposite. Where when just thinking of that stat overall, when you're looking at it, if you're number one in the league on third down on defense, you would imagine that the points per game are going to be lower because you're forcing a lot of punts. The complete opposite for the Chicago Bears, where they're 28th in the league or 28th in the league at points per game. I thought that was absolutely nuts. In regards to Washington, right now, we are the first in the league in rushing yards per game, which is good news for us because Chicago's defense coming into this game, they are 31st in the NFL on defense at giving up rushing yards per game, 164 yards on average per game. That has to be the MO because, like you just saw, like the stat I just ripped off, they're number one in the league on third down. If you're able to run the football effectively, consistently, constantly, and I don't mean just big chunk runs like in everything. I just mean on a consistent basis, being able to average 5 to 6 yards per rush. You're putting this offense in a very good opportunity to get down the field. Keep that third down short. I heard Joe Witt talk about this in his presser of winning on first and second down on defense to kind of force a longer third down so you could pin your ears back and get after the quarterback, creating more passing situations for the offense so your guys could get after the quarterback. And Washington's defense has done a very good job at that. But on the flip side of that, bringing that to the offense, that's what you want to ensure going against the Chicago Bears defense. Because right now, Chicago's defense are 17th in passing yards allowed, 215 yards allowed per game. But obviously, they're second to last in rushing yards per game. So you want that balanced attack. And this is one of those games where you should be able to. But we have said that before with this team. But you got to be able to move the bodies around. And so that you got to press on that weakness. And that's one of my biggest concerns with Washington coming into this game. You are number one in the league in rushing yards per game. Show me why. Show everyone why that's the case. It's not just a fluke. It's not just a stat that people throw out. It's not just something that because you went against a couple bad teams. Like, no, really press into it. I want over 200 yards rushing in this game. Easy clip to be able to do it. And when you do that, you really put their defense on their heels. You create easy opportunities for this offense. If you give Jaden Daniels to have an impactful play action, dude, this offense is unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. And you really have to go back and look at it. Just in overall, if you have a rushing attack that's picking up 7 to 8 yards per carry, I know I said 5 to 6 before, but if you're able to do that, you have the threat of Jaden Daniels doing that play action, sucking those linebackers up like Reed on a Saturday, sucking them up into the hole. Now they have to drop back in coverage. You could dunk it over. You can dink it right over the top of their head to Zach Ertz on a crosser, a comeback, quick little hitch, a hook, whatever it may be. And then you add the element of the Deebo Samuel on that deep kind of crosser who honestly doesn't get enough respect for this because everyone likes to talk about him as like a runner, being utilized in the backfield, those end arounds. But his hands has shown to be very consistent and very sticky hands in crucial situations, and none other than a couple of those third downs and the fourth down play against the Chargers, where he had separation on the corner, but Jaden had to float that ball a little bit in the back of the end zone, and as he's catching the ball, the corner's on his back, and he still holds it down and gets his feet in bounds. He deserves a lot of credit for his play so far this season. Without Terry McLaurin, without Noah Brown, they've needed their playmakers to step up, and absolutely Deebo Samuel has been able to do so. But just adding the Debo element into it on a passing situation, and then possibly Noah Brown being brought into the equation. But then you have Jaden Daniels' legs. And that's such a triple threat that's every defense has a weakness. And so if you're trying to take away Debo, most likely what you could do is you could do what you were doing to Terry. It's much harder to do to Debo because he's much more lining up in the slot, running those kind of crossing routes. It's hard to bracket an inside guy. You could do it on an outside guy much easier, given with the safety over the top. It's kind of hard to dedicate a safety for an inside guy all the time because Debo could go outside on those routes, where as an outside wide receiver, you don't have much room to the sideline as an inside guy would. So with Debo, if you could do that, you could bring in that extra safety to bracket him. You could bring just dual coverage like a Calvin Johnson type play where corners were running basically punt coverage on him. But that would open up other things. That's taking eyes away from Jaden Daniels. It's taking eyes away from that running game where we kind of utilize that option where Jaden can give the ball off, take it back, throw it, or take it himself. And so it's just taking more eyes away. If you're able to run the ball sustainably, this offense really is unstoppable. They are very hard to beat, given with the quarterback position, knowing where to go with the football, when, being content with what the defense is giving you, but also being aggressive enough to attack those situations when they warrant it. You don't want to attack too much. You don't want to be Jay Cutler versus the Redskins with D'Angelo Hall out there getting 4 interceptions. But you do want to have aggression, but control it. You want to be able to control it and hit it when it's absolutely necessary, when you can get it, i.e. that Luke McCaffrey throw where he gets that one-on-one coverage deep downfield and you trust your guy to go make that play, and he did. So I think that Washington overall, if they have that consistent running game, they're very tough to beat. And if you're able to keep those weapons, the Bears offense, what they have with DeAndre Swift, those tight ends, those wide receivers, keep them on the sideline, control time of possession, allow our defense to have a breather. That's that complementary football that Dan Quinn likes to talk about. You don't want to go on that 3 and out and force your defense to get back on the field that just got 8 minutes on the field by the opposing offense. So that's a big issue in this game where you want to keep them on the sideline. You want to get Caleb in his head, make him try to make a play, try to be Superman when he ultimately doesn't need to. And maybe you could get a turnover at it and really flip the scales for this overall team. This is a fantastic matchup. I was talking about this with a coworker of mine who said, "Oh, it's not that great of a matchup, you versus the Bears." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute, pal. Like, it absolutely is, because especially for Bears fans, because Bears fans, they've had it out for us in particular because we really love our guy. We really love Jaden Daniels. Like, a lot of us would go to war for Jaden Daniels because of the young man he is and what he's done for this city and obviously this team, Dan Quinn, everyone involved who made this happen. But obviously the quarterback is what really drives the market, of course. And they need affirmation. The Chicago Bears fans need confirmation that they drafted the right guy at number 1. And honestly, I'm going to give them grace and mercy because we were there. Like, we have been, we know what it's like to be in quarterback purgatory, of having this magical chairs of quarterbacks in and out, in and out. And you're just waiting for that guy to come in and just kind of put his stamp on things to show I'm legit. And not only that, but that he's a superstar in the league. And so when Washington fans are talking about Jaden, they're pumping him up because they know he's special. They know what we know what we have is special. And so the Bears fans have really gone after Washington fans because they want to make sure that their guy is better than Jaden. And so last year, I remember going into that game having a different feeling about Bears fans. And I know I have a couple questions that were submitted based on this, and I don't want to go far too into it. But I was telling my coworker, like, this is a matchup like much more so about the fan base than it is about the teams. As much as we like to make it out about the Hail Mary game and the media will make it out about the Hail Mary game, this really is about the fan base. of both of them being able to have just the rights to talk crap on Twitter ultimately. But all that matters for Washington is going 1-0 this week. They have an opportunity to be number one in the NFC East, to get first place because the Eagles stumbled. They're 4-2. If Washington wins this game, we go 4-2, and we're in sole possession of what happens with this division. That is a good place to be, given with the rash of injuries that they do have. I know everyone can make that kind of complaint, and it's next man up mentality. It's coach speak. It's kind of beating dead horse with that. But with Washington, they lost a lot of crucial people, and they've done a good job of righting the ship given the circumstances. You know, it could have been a lot like Cincinnati when Jaden Daniels went out, but that wasn't the case. They were able to win a game, and it was tough to see what happened with Atlanta, and you wish that we could have come out better in that game. But you had to give them credit. They didn't lie down. There wasn't a sulking aspect when they lost Jaden. It was much more so of we got to go out and prove ourselves, and they did that against Vegas. But we, as an overall team, this is big for the fan base. It's blackout on Monday night. I wish I was going. I love the black jerseys, and hopefully everyone going. If you are going, have a great time. Wear your black. Get ready. It's going to be fantastic atmosphere. I'm not sure that many Chicago. I don't think this is going to be talked about, but I don't know if that many Bears fans are going to be going to this game this year, given with how last year went. Like, you saw viral videos of the Chicago Bears fans in the stands. I'm not sure if they're going to want to show up to this game and being like, do I want to put myself out in that kind of capacity like it was last year? So that has to be taken into consideration here. Next, let's go to the Discord to answer this next question. This one from Big Tony Shivers. Do you find the Bears fan base to be the most annoying outside of the division? Anytime I peek into socials, they are weirdly obsessing to compare Caleb favorably to JD5 or saying some wild stuff. Yes, I'm not going to say they're the most annoying, but surprising. Because before Jaden and Caleb, we could, like I talked about just now, like we could really resonate with Bears fans because like of similar situations where like they've never really had a franchise quarterback besides like Jay Cutler, you could say. And with Washington, like the Bears won their Super Bowls based on their defense, their coach, their running game, and the quarterback was kind of like the iffy thing, but they still got it done based on those other avenues. And it was similar for Washington, not saying our quarterbacks were bad, but just like the identity of the team was offensive line, Joe Gibbs, only head coach in Super Bowl history to be able to have 3 Super Bowls with 3 separate quarterbacks. It says a lot about the organization that they were running and how good that they were building things. And Chicago is very similar to that. So we were very similar in that aspect. But it is kind of crazy to see Bears fans talking like they were. One of the most surprising things that I saw was Bears fans saying that they were rooting for the Lions against us in the NFC Championship game. And you have to really think about that. Like, that's a division rival. That's like saying the Eagles are in the NFC Championship game going against the Bears, and we're like, I'm rooting for the Eagles in this game because I want you guys to, like, think about that yourself. Like, that's kind of crazy to say. Like, you would never say that. Like, I know that you might know people that are Eagles fans, but, like, it's not willing enough to want them to win and get to the Super Bowl. Like, you don't want the Eagles to do that. Like, you despise the Eagles. You don't want them to be successful, just like the Cowboys. Like, I just found that asinine and ass backwards, to be perfectly honest with you. And it just goes to show, like, how desperate they were to show that they made the right decision at quarterback. And of course they're going to talk wild about Washington. I've seen some people say this is the first time I've seen Washington talking on Twitter and stuff like that. It's like, have you been paying attention to the rookie of the week thing? Like, we literally dominate that. If you haven't known that Washington dominates social media by now, like you're new. We're not. Like, you should know that by now. And so it's not surprising that the Bears fans would have the reaction that they did, but it is surprising the depths that they're willing to go to prove that their guy is number one. And look, he has a bright future ahead of him. He's a very good investor, has his money about him, and he has some questionable off the field things on how he dresses and stuff like that. But I'm not the fashion police. But like I said last year, it's take Caleb. You get after Caleb. You get into his head, and that's how you really beat them. And you get into his head. You force him to make some mistakes and win. And Washington is very much in has the ability to do so. Other than most annoying outside, no, I do think LA fans, the Charger fans, are definitely on that realm. I remember getting into it with a Chargers fan a couple years ago, saying that they had the best social media team. And look, I had a weak moment. I'll admit that. But I said, if if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. And my point being was there aren't that many Chargers fans. Like it's not like a fan base that we all look at to say that's one of the best fan bases in the NFL. It's non-existent. Even though they've had winning teams over there, it's just non-existent. It's not a powerhouse. And it's just crazy how much they do talk, given with how small that they are, even though they're in a big market. It's absolutely nuts to think about and overall to speak. And so, are they the most annoying outside the division? No. And that's a hard crown to kind of take, man, to be perfectly honest with you. But we know that the NFC East takes the cake in that regard. The East Coast, Dallas, NFC East, those fan bases really do run everything. And I'm not going to lie to you, Steelers fans are up there with me too. I got some Steelers fans that are great freaking people. My stepfather-in-law is a Steelers fan. He's a phenomenal person. I respect some Steelers fans, but majority of them are but annoying. That damn terrible towel, I will never forget that preseason game where they came to Washington waving that terrible who brings a terrible towel to a preseason game? Like, I get it. You don't get to go that many. You're a fan around here. Why do you have a terrible towel? That's something for Pittsburgh. Don't bring it here for a preseason game. That's really annoying to me, and it's most annoying that they just kept winning and winning and winning, and it was just annoying in itself. Now the next question from Tim Towner. Discuss if there is an issue with off-season training that results in a rash of injuries when the season starts. The season is now so long, players are held out of games at the beginning of the year because they know there are enough games left to make the playoffs as a wild card, which waters down the quality of that game. What would you think the league can do to incentivize the players to be on the field every week? Perhaps the league could give players a $1 million bonus to players who participate in all 17 games. In theory, Tim, that makes sense. It does. But there is no right or wrong in this sort of scenario. Like, for instance, Jaden Daniels got nicked up, right? Didn't play much in preseason. Not much at all. Terry McLaurin was out, of course. But Joe Burrow played the entire preseason. He's injured for the year now. So there is no concrete way. Maybe there's some stats, some statistics that you could point to say, well, this says that that's wrong, that this points in that direction. My whole point being is injuries are going to happen, and there's not much you can really do to change that. There is no concrete way to say this will stop an injury. It's God's kind of will in the sense. And so there's no way to be able to dictate what God's will is. If you understand, if you're getting my drift here. And so it's much more so preparing yourself financially as a player to making sure that if it does happen, because you have no control over it if it does, to be in a good position to do so. And as a football team, you build your football team based on that you have no idea. There is no rhyme or reason to it. The cardio is probably the best way, stretching and those things definitely do help in maintaining and making sure that you are not going to be injured or nicked up at all. But ultimately, you have to build your football team built on contingency plans. You have to have a plan for every single situation possible. I've talked about this many times. That's why I think Howie Roseman definitely deserves a lot of credit for what happened last season to the Eagles. They lost Jalen Hurts for a period of time. They didn't skip a beat at all. Kenny Pickett came in and was actually a pretty damn good quarterback for them, and they deserve credit for that because they didn't skip a beat. They kept on running and chugging. That's how you're supposed to build a football team. You have injuries at key positions, and you're still moving, you're still going, still doing your thing. Obviously, you could have a rash of injuries like you've talked about where it really depletes your teams, and a good example of that is like the Ravens, for example. And their corners, their safeties, obviously are dinged up a heck of a whole lot. They're missing a linebacker on defense. You could have those situations that really converge on you, and there's not much you can ultimately do. But there is no way to really have a plan to stop an injury. It's just going to happen. And I don't think that Tyreek Hill, if he played all preseason, wouldn't have done that to his leg on that play, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that's a thing. It was going to happen. So, a long-winded way of saying we have no way to grasp it. We have no way to limit it, to stop it. You have to build yourself as a player to be built in a position to try to put yourself in a good position to not get injured and not be financially liable if it does happen. But also from a team standpoint, you have to build your team on the premise that every single player is going to get injured. And maybe you build it based on every single player getting injured at the same time. It's very hard to do for that to be happening. But the ultimate goal is to be able to have really good backups that feel very comfortable about them. I've said that all off season long. The incentives thing is awesome. That's what you ultimately want. But then you're going to get into a situation where players are frustrated because they want to play those 17 games to get that bonus and putting themselves in harm's way with a dinged up injury that could get worse just for that bonus. And that's like, is that really the incentive that you want to push on a player? Like, you want their health, their long-term health, to be the number one goal. And that's what the NFL is honestly on right now. That's their big thing. They don't want to be financially liable later down the road. They want to make sure these guys are healthy when they walk out of the league, so that way they don't have to foot the bill for the rest of their life. And that's what the NFL is kind of going towards. I understand your question and everything, but I just think that it's a multi-layered, very difficult thing to kind of break down and answer to be truthful about it. Now, the next question that we have is from our guy, Mr. Big Tony Shivers. Tony's question is, not Tony Shivers, my bad, Tony Franchise. Who do you dislike more, Bears fans trying to push a rivalry or Ben Johnson for canceling the interview with the Commanders? I want to say Ben Johnson, but I can't. Because I said, if I ever got to a point in life where, like, stupid to say this, but just saying that, like, if I ever got to a point in life where, like, the Cowboys called me for a job interview, that's, like, exactly what I would do. Like, I would say I was interested. They'd fly a plane over to meet me, and I'd be like, never mind. I don't want to meet you. Sorry, pal. Yeah, go Commanders. Like, that's the kind of thing I would do. So I can't really hate Ben for it, even though that was kind of weird for him to do. But I have no ill will against him because he did us a favor. We got Dan Quinn in here, and that's exactly what this team kind of needed from a leadership standpoint, was that kind of unselfish, player-centric coach that understands the human aspect of it, of knowing the mentality, the aggressive mindset, having Dan Quinn's ability to bring in coaches here, obviously has been talked about, but is really a huge point for why Washington is where it is right now. That coaching staff that he brought in really did help this football team get over the quick hump and quick turnaround that they were able to achieve. So I think that Ben Johnson deserves his flowers. I'm glad that he didn't want to come play for the football guys, because we got football coach in here who does, and he's done a damn really good job at it. But the Bears fans, I'm not gonna say I dislike them. I just dislike how they come at our fan base, and the kind of it, if the Steelers or Ravens come at us as a fan base talking, they kind of have a point. Now, they've been winning for a long time. Like I've said this before, I've got buddies that are Ravens fans, and they've always clowned on Washington over the years. And like they're like that big brother type of like esque type of thing where you can't really talk crap to them. All they do is win. What are you gonna say? Like, shut up, man. You guys lost that one game 2 weeks ago. Like they're in the playoffs every year. You can't really say anything about them. Uh, with the Bears fans, it's kind of different because it's like, hold on, pal. Like, you guys brought in a quarterback on lame duck coach. Just, I understand, but like, why are you hating on me just because we like our guy? What are you doing here? And it is that kind of affirmation thing. And so it's a very weird kind of situation with Bears fans because it's like it's like that one guy that continually wants to fight you. And you're like, dude, I have no issue with you. Why do you keep trying to fight me? Like, I have no issue with you whatsoever. I didn't do anything to you. I don't know why this guy keeps wanting to fight me, but he keeps wanting to. So I'm just go away, man. I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to go to jail. I'm not trying to get an order on me. So can you please go away, kind of thing. And that's how it feels with Bears fans, because it's like I don't know why this guy keeps coming at me like this. There's no reason for it. And honestly, the rivalry word usage that you use there, I have no problem with it. I welcome a rivalry. I think that would be it's fantastic for the league. It's what the league is built on. I mean, if we go back, like, what is the one thing about Washington versus the Cowboys? It's the rivalry. It's what drives all sports. It's the Lakers versus the Celtics. It's the Red Sox versus the Yankees. Like, rivalries should be built, and they're not just based on your division. There's other things underlying it. So look, let's have a rivalry. I'm all for that, dude. If it got sparked by a Hail Mary and you guys fumbling another quarterback, then fine. If you want to hold that against us, that's cool with me. I'm gonna look forward to matching against you guys and seeing how our boys do because I'm confident in them. So I'm all for the rivalry, man. Let's eat it up. It was weird to see Montez Sweat's comments again, saying that he was like kind of hurt by them trading him. And like the weirdest part about it though is that he got paid like immediately after he got traded. They gave him a big contract. Like, were you really hurt by it, dude? Like, come on, man. Are you really hurt by it? And just like every other Washington player that left here, talking about going to never been around an organization like this that takes things seriously, as professional, that wins and stuff like that. It's just funny that how that typically goes down. And Montez Sweat definitely went down that route, of course. But it's like, you don't need to hold this animosity against us, dude. You got paid. You went where you wanted to go, and to a good situation. So I don't know why you're still pissed off about it. I'm sure that he's looking for a reason to have bulletin board material to get jacked up for this game, and more power to him. But, like, we don't hate you, dude. Like, respect to you and what you did here. Glad you got paid. Happy that you were on the Commanders when you were, but not gonna cheer for you anymore, of course. But hope you all the best. Just stop hating me. I have nothing against you. Now, for this game, let's get some predictions in here. If you guys are watching this, if you want to comment your predictions, score predictions, MVP, unsung hero, I want to hear your thoughts on who you think is going to be that player to stand out. Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that a lot of people would probably pick, and it probably wouldn't be an unsung hero at this point. 5 sacks so far through 5 games. The guy is on a tear. He is, ever since the end of last season into the playoffs, he really has stepped up to the plate, and that's somebody that definitely deserves the limelight. I do think if I'm going to give anybody that's like an unsung kind of hero, I do think that Johnny Newton is starting to play really, really well and starting to play in tune, and I think that's somebody that could make a huge difference in the interior, being able to collapse the pocket on Caleb Williams. We know that Caleb likes to dance and wants to get out of that pocket once it's collapsing up the middle. That's why we have somebody like Von Miller to be able to, and Dorrance Armstrong on the outside to be able to stop that and limit that. And so I think that those two guys are going to be ready for that opportunity. Just don't let him to get upfield right through that the hole in the pocket. And that's where Johnny Newton, that's where Javon Kinlaw comes into play to have a big game. But I also, this wouldn't be undercover, but I think Frankie Louvu, because I think defensively, the attention is starting to go towards the edge rushers based on the sack amount that they're getting. And so maybe they start taking eyes away from Frankie. And maybe Frankie is able to finally cut it loose and make some big-time plays to get after the quarterback and be a game changer like he was last year. Not taking anything away from him this year. Obviously, things are different now that he made the Pro Bowl, he made a name for himself, and teams are really eyeing on him at the moment. Not taking anything away from him, but I think that this could be the game where it's like, all right, Frankie Louvu's back, so to speak. And offensively, Jalen Lane. I think Jalen Lane, that 3rd and 16 was huge. I think this team overall is looking for guys to be able to get the ball to. And Jalen Lane, I think he's ready for this opportunity. And he could be one of the benefactors of one of those deep balls from Jaden Daniels. I think Washington wins. And like I always do, I think it's going to be close, but semi-high scoring. I think it's going to be about 30-24. I think Washington holds on to it till the end and is able to win this football game. If you've made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you to the Colonel. Thank you to Tony Shivers. Thank you to Tony Franchise. Thank you to James Bonato, Tim Towner for your questions. I appreciate you guys. Seriously, if you have listened for this whole 50 minutes, you deserve a beer. Tell your loved ones that you deserve a cookie, a dessert, milkshake, beer, vodka, Hennessy, whatever the hell you're drinking. You deserve one because it would be rough to listen to me for 50 minutes. And you guys are heroes for doing that. I can't thank you guys enough. If you're going to the game on Monday, represent us well. Don't be a knucklehead. Don't be causing any issues, but be loud, man. Be absolutely loud. Chicago's offense is one of the worst in the league in converting pre-snap penalties. And so you want that place rocking. You want it jumping and to force them to jump off the ball and help our defense out just a little bit more at being able to get off the field to give the ball back to the offense. So if anything, please, if you're going, please be loud. Even if you're at home, make sure you guys are recording yourselves for this game. We kind of proved that last year where all those videos went viral at the end of that game. Record yourself for this game, even if you're at home. All right, everybody. Thank you so far. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you again on Tuesday for the recap episode talking about the Bears game on Monday night. I can't thank you guys enough. You are the frickin' best, and we'll see you guys then. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.